Greater Than Rubies. And I have a friend here today. A couple weekends ago, I was at a teen Bible conference in Florida, and God, as He always does, brought me a really new, interesting, fresh perspective on something that I know a lot of young ladies struggle with. And so I just want to invite my new friend, Candace Lopez, to tell a little bit about her story today, in hopes that it will lift you up and encourage you, both young ladies who are watching and parents who might be noticing that there's something more that they could be doing for their young ladies. So, Candace Lopez, please tell us a little bit about where you're coming from, your story, and we'll get into how that might help others here in a little bit.
Yeah, hi. I just want to thank God for introducing Amy and I together, and for the opportunities to talk about how there is freedom in Him, and our identity can be found in Him and not in eternal resources. As far as my story goes, I am in recovery from an 18-year-long battle to an eating disorder. 2 years ago, it led me to 90 pounds, and my kidneys were failing in the hospital, and nowhere else to run to but God. I had been spoken to by a lady that was in recovery herself, a survivor of anorexia, that her niece at the age of 28 had just passed away. And I was 28 at the time, and I know this was Jesus speaking to me to either wake up or ultimately choose the path of destruction. And it maybe was because it was the first time I was sober since I was 15, that it hit me. But it did, and my life hasn't really been the same since. Not to say it's not been easy or it's not been hard, but God has definitely intervened, and I no longer am bound to taking every morsel of food to the toilet, or starving myself for everyone else's approval and satisfaction. Unfortunately, as hard as it may seem to grasp, and I'm going to try not to cry, but that the enemy can grab a hold of your mind and take it down a path of destruction like this, that it really just starts with one lie, and that one lie built. And I was told at the age of 10 that I would be better if I lost a little bit of weight and I was in gymnastics. And you know, there's power in the tongue, and God's word tells us this, and that there's life and death in the tongue. I think it's Proverbs 18:21. And it grabbed a hold of me, and I didn't have God to tell me the truth otherwise, so I believe this one lie just continued to build up, and I found my identity in these lies that the devil was feeding me.
Candace, will you take us through a little bit about that progression, how it started with that one lie? Because I think that sometimes we can flippantly say things like that, especially if we're trying to coach young people. Mm-hmm. And I just want people to realize like how devastating it could be. So can you just take me through that a little bit about that first year when you were 10, what you were thinking when you first heard that, and kind of those first little steps that may seem insignificant or not even threatening to people?
Right. I don't think as a young child you realize how powerful words are, and I don't think parents realize how powerful their words are around their children. My mom never really meaning to portrayed a woman of no self-worth. She always talked down to herself. She never lifted herself up. Um, so I saw this as a young child, and I thought that's how you were supposed to talk to yourself. I didn't know that you were actually allowed to think that you were pretty. Um, and again, my mom did not mean to portray this, but coming from a broken marriage where her husband committed adultery, not once but twice, and finding her worth in situations like that, ultimately this stemmed on to my confidence. And so when I heard this one lie from this gymnastics teacher, I believed it. And I believed it because, I thought our confidence was built around our size. And I didn't get the love from a daddy that I probably, could have needed at that time. But so I don't really know where I'm trying to go with this. I'm sorry.
Okay.
um, yeah, sorry. I mean,
No worries. Just okay. So carrying on from those, the first impact and kind of what was all leading to this, I guess the storm that made the conditions right for your choosing to start. What happened after those ideas got in your head? The reason I'm asking this is not to glorify these things or to give gruesome details, but to give those who are concerned a little bit of insight into what they should be watching for. Does that make sense?
yeah. So the first thing when somebody tells you that you could lose some weight, I thought I needed to go on a diet. So my diet just progressed into, first it was not to eat carbs, and then it was to, only eat salad and to only eat one meal a day. And then, so my diet stemmed from, and all I did was research how to lose the quickest amount of weight in the shortest amount of time. And I went to every magazine that you could read, and I would always research recipes. And I grew up in a restaurant where my grandparents had a restaurant for 25 years, so I was surrounded around food my whole life. And ultimately it was I just felt like I could never win. I could never get to that size that society says was the way I was supposed to be. I grew up in a very small town where having the last name Lopez was the minority. And so I was around a lot of petite, blonde, thin females, and I was a Cuban, full-figured, the same height I am now, 5'5", and just a bigger build than the other girls. And so I believe that Satan just added to this, that I just didn't fit in. You just look so much different than everyone else. Everyone's got such light skin, and you got tan complexion and curly hair, and so but on the outside I appeared to be happy and social and independent, but on the inside, when the lights were dim and I was in my room, I was writing in journals, God, why can I not look like Jessica? Or why can I not look like Katie? And why did you make me this way?
Mm.
So, um, I love that journals are a way to release and a way to get things out of our head and that maybe our parents won't read, but I don't know if it's not a good thing that you don't read your kids' journals. I know that may sound sound bad, but I think maybe if somebody were to have read some of my journals from when I was a little girl, they would have maybe came to me and knew that something was going on inside my head that wasn't showing on the outer appearance.
Yeah. So you've said a couple things I want to recap just
Mm-hmm.
for clarity. You talked about starting restricting calories and researching and finding other ways to diet. So I know that's something that now my awareness is heightened and I can pay attention to these things. And maybe the journaling is an indicator. Just parents or concerned friends or anybody could just be like, what's on your heart? What have you been journaling about lately? And
Right.
using that as maybe a segue into deeper conversation. Are there any other things you can think of that would um, help me, just speak to me in my circle of influence, to reach out to these young women to make sure I know where they're getting their sense of identity from? Can I be like, if you were in my circle of influence as a young person, what could I have done as a friend or older mentor? Would you have even opened up to me if I had asked, or what do you think?
Um, Honestly, as cliche as it might sound, do they have God in their life? Um, I always had God around me, but I never fully had him in my heart. And I'm gonna cry.
That's okay here. I think,
But
um,
yeah, so I had the option of, do I want to go to church or do I want to work? And I wasn't pushed to go to church, and I was again being lied to by the devil that I didn't fit in. All the
at
other
church.
girls were prettier than me, and none of it, because sometimes church can be and youth group can be just another little party, kind of. You have your cliques, and everybody goes because everybody, it's the thing to do on Sunday and Wednesday night, and you go and see your friends and you hang out. And nobody went in my age group, and there were a lot of popular, beautiful girls that were there, and um, I didn't fit in, and I didn't like it, and I told my mom, and I manipulated my way to not having to go, and maybe I should have been pushed, but you know that's the past, and ultimately I know that God's promise is that He'll turn everything out for His purpose and His goodwill. So it'll all work out. But yeah, is God? How is the relationship with God?
Hmm.
That would be the number one thing to look out for.
Yeah. Let me transition a little bit into, I mean, it's super heavy, um, and I think that, this conversation is something that you don't just fix somebody or find out something. It's got to be intentional, purposeful, and over time. But what was it for you that, that started your transition from getting your identity from this group of girls, getting your identity from your mom, getting your identity from whatever, and now as you've matured and gotten your walk with God, what are some of the first things that got your attention and you're like, wow, that's not how God sees me at all?
Well, there's nowhere in God's word that says the three-letter word fat. there's nowhere in God's word that emphasis on weight and the number on the scale measures my value. Nowhere. And
Yeah.
I never, it wasn't until 2 years ago that I opened up God's word and started reading it. And the Bible that I was given had a specific section on eating disorders. And when I opened it and I read it, and I'm like, oh my God, you really understand me. You really get it, because on the outside, people think it's about food, and it's so much more than that. It's about control and feeling like you're in control, but being so out of control because the lies have control over you. And so God's word is what has renewed my thinking and my thought process.
Okay, we're going to wrap up here in the next couple minutes, Candace, but I just want people to know how they can learn more about you and your story, and any other resources like this Bible. Is this Bible available for people who might be struggling with that this very day? Can they get a hold of that?
Yeah, the Bible is the New King James Version Women's Study Bible. You can get it at christianbookstore.com, any Christian bookstore. So it's the New King James Version. And God has me on a road of ministry myself. It's called God Confident Ministries. You can reach me at CandaceGodConfident@gmail.com or www.godconfident.com. It is God-confident.com. You can also just call me, 706-781-9820. I believe that there are many out there that suffer, and I just hope and pray that through the renewing of the mind with God's word, and if you need a Bible and you don't have the funds, please contact me. I would love to send you a Bible, and ultimately this is the number one tool and resource that we can have in our walk. So I thank you, Amy, for the opportunity to talk about God and how He's renewed my life. And I wish you many prayers of blessings on your ministry.
Thank you so much, Candace Lopez, God Confident. It's just amazing to hear about your story and your transition. I know that you've heightened my awareness, and sometimes we just think that doesn't happen in the church or doesn't happen in our areas. But I know that there are so many, even in our little circles of influence, in our little country churches, who are struggling with where they get their confidence, where they get their identity. And so I'm glad you're there. Now, anybody who may be watching this, I do believe that Candace, that you can actually hire Candace to come to your church, your youth group, your school. And so you've gotten her info. I'll put it in links below. And please give her a call, because it's a difficult subject to approach. And Candace does it with grace and love and God-centeredness. Candace, I'm going to turn off this broadcast now. Thank you so much for joining me today. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.